Picture yourself standing in the howling darkness of an Icelandic winter where temperatures plunge to 30 degrees below zero and the wind cuts through wool like a blade through water. Now imagine surviving that night without modern insulation, without electric heat, without even the luxury of abundant firewood. The Vikings didn't just survive these conditions, they thrived in them for centuries, using a heating technique so ingenious that modern survivalists are only now rediscovering its brilliance. This wasn't magic or myth. It was engineering born from necessity, refined through generations of bitter winters, and it could save your life today. The longhouse, a living thermal engine. The Viking longhouse wasn't merely shelter. It was a sophisticated heat management system disguised as architecture. Walking into one of these structures during winter was like entering a living organism designed for one purpose: keeping humans alive when the world outside wanted them dead. The walls weren't built with wood planks like most modern cabins. Instead, they constructed massive barriers of stacked turf and sod, sometimes 3 feet thick, creating an insulating envelope that trapped warmth with ruthless efficiency. The roof told an even more fascinating story. Vikings engineered a low, curved ceiling heavily insulated with layers of turf, creating what archaeologists now call the invisible smoke ceiling. When the central hearth fire burned, smoke rose and collected in the upper rafters, forming a thick hot layer that acted as a thermal blanket. The entire family gathered around the central fire, which was never allowed to die completely, and, well, life compressed into this warm, smoky, intimate core while winter raged beyond the earthen walls. During the brutal winter months, Vikings brought their cattle, sheep and goats inside the longhouse, separated only by wooden partitions. A single cow generates approximately 1,500 watts of heat, more than most space heaters. Multiply that by a dozen animals, and you've created a constant, reliable heat source that requires nothing but the hay you stored all summer. This wasn't sentimentality, it was survival mathematics. The animals kept the longhouse from freezing during the coldest nights, and in return the shelter kept them alive to provide milk, wool, and eventually meat when spring finally arrived. The Vikings mastered a principle that, honestly, modern preppers often miss. It's easier to trap heat than to produce it. They built raised sleeping platforms and enclosed box beds with heavy curtains, creating these micro-environments within the larger space. They lined everything, walls, beds, clothing, with wool and animal skins because, well, they understood that wool insulates even when damp, which is a critical advantage in environments where, let's face it, everything eventually becomes wet. These techniques aren't museum pieces, they're survival protocols waiting to be relearned. In a winter emergency, you can create a heat-trap ceiling in any room using plastic sheeting or blankets, reducing the volume you need to warm. You can confine your living space to one small, heavily insulated area rather than trying to heat an entire structure. Their longhouses were low-tech, but they were high-concept, built on principles that physics still respects today. As you return to the modern world with its thermostats and insulated walls, just remember that the techniques keeping you comfortable tonight are actually younger than you might think. Their legacy isn't in their raids or their sagas. It's really in the thermal architecture that kept families alive through centuries of darkness. That knowledge is yours now. Don't let it die again. If this journey into forgotten survival wisdom resonated with you, go ahead and subscribe to Fieldcraft Chronicles and hit that notification bell. Share this video with anyone who values self-reliance, who studies history not as nostalgia, but as instruction, and who understands that the old ways aren't primitive. They're proven. The next episode in our series awaits, and honestly, the fieldcraft of our ancestors has so much more to teach us.